Because all the activities are doing activities are being acted on.
Is the other one as well?
See what happens without we spend too much money.
Yeah.
I'm still working on it now.
Oh, yeah.
I should be right now.
person? Nolan. Welcome back, everyone. My notes say good afternoon, but we must have done well this morning. So thank you, everyone. We'll now attend the Ordinary Council meeting today. I declare the Ordinary meeting of 18 June 2025 open at 11:12 a.m. Advise members of the public this meeting is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with Council standing orders. Councillors and staff are reminded of their responsibilities under their respective codes of conduct, both inside Council meeting and when dealing externally and on behalf of Council. On behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome councillors, WRC staff, members of the public and media. Item number one, apologies, leaves and absence. We've got everybody here this morning, so there are no apologies or leave. Item number two, condolences. Do we have any councillors that wish to acknowledge any recently deceased members of the community? Councillor Finlay.
Yes, I'd like to acknowledge and convey our condolences to the Volker family. A local builder named Glenn Volker, sadly passed away up in Bowen the other week before me. So, yeah, just done many housing projects in Bowen between him and his brother. So, yeah, just pass our condolences on his family.
Councillor Finlay, and I'll second that, knowing Glenn's daughter Jessica quite well through previous dealings, and acknowledge their loss in the community. On behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, we would like to acknowledge and pay our respects to any other recently departed members of the Whitsunday region and offer our sincere condolences to their families and loved ones. Will everyone please join me standing for a minute's silence. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Next item is item 3, confirmation of minutes. Please have a mover. Move Councillor Wright. Second, Councillor Simpson. Any discussion around the previous minutes?
Quickly, for me, I did send an email just about the attachments being mentioned in the confidential. I didn't follow you up this morning, sorry Jason, but just in confidential item. Just whether mentioning an attachment brings us in there. Page 40 of the minutes, the resolution relative to the commercial fees and charges. Just the resolution mentions as detailed in attachments 13.51, 13.52 in 2 points, just whether that would make those confidential fees and charges something that would be requestable by the public.
We'll just remove those attachments, Mr Mayor, so if we just note that subject to the minor amendments raised by Councillor Barr.
Thank you.
With that, Councillor Barr.
I didn't want you, Jason.
So that's just to remove that from the schedules. Okay, nothing else? Okay, the motion the council confirms the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 28th of May 2025, subject to a minor amendment at, yeah, happy with that. Right, all those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. On number 4, business arising. Would any councillor like to raise any business arising from the previous minutes? No? Okay, item number 5, mayoral minute. There is no mayoral minute for the meeting. Number 6, notice of motion. We've received no notices of motion for the meeting. Deputations, number 7, no deputations have been received for the meeting. Item number 8, petitions, questions or notice. Does any councillor have a petition they wish to put on the table?
Yes, I do.
It's Clifford.
This is from Lara Margaret Hill. It is a petition and comments. There are 515 signatures on the petition, and it is to do with the development application DA 2024-1233, which is impact accessible in Main Street, Airlie Beach. This is the mini golf and dinosaurs.
So it relates to report at item 11.3.
Yeah, it does. The grounds for the objection are that the theme is incompatible with the local character and tourism identity of the area. The community is not opposed to mini golf, just the inappropriate theme and location. The visual impact and streetscape is also a concern, along with around the project staging and delivering of promised benefits. The lack of the adequate parking is also a big issue for these people. The risk of further traffic congestion and safety issues. So it's basically about the height, bulk, and the visual amenity of it. And I would like to present that to me or the CEO.
So what was the number of respondents that were part of that petition?
There were 515 signatures and 32 comments.
Okay.
Mr. CEO.
Okay, thank you.
We do need to receive the
Okay.
petition.
Jane,
I'll ask,
move,
yes.
move that we receive the petition. Seconder, Councillor Bowman. The motion that council receive the petition regarding development application, impact accessible, Airlie Beach Main Street. Do you want to put the number in there as well? Development application 2024-1233.
Yeah, we'll write that.
Item there, so
Yeah.
that's correct. Yeah. All in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to item number 9, questions from the public gallery. We haven't received any questions in advance, Mr. CEO. You don't have any update there? Okay, no questions have been received for this meeting. On item number 10, committees reports. We have the 10.1 Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes for the 20th of May 2025. Move Councillor Finlay. I'll second that one. I think fairly straightforward record of the meeting there. Does any council have any comments or questions they'd like to make around those minutes? Okay, the motion that council endorse the unconfirmed minutes of the Audit Risk Committee meeting held on the 20th of May 2025. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, we now move into our officers' reports, section 11. I just want to note that there was a late report item, the monthly financial report, which will be after the rest of the ordinary reports at item 12.1. So our first one is item 11.1, the Whitsunday 2030 Economic Development Strategy. I'm going to move that one. Second, Councillor Clifford. Mr. Hanlon, you want to speak to the item?
Thank you and good morning Mr Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors and staff. It is a great pleasure to present Whitsunday 2030, our new economic development strategy for the next 5 years. This is a strategy that's not just for council but for the region, and that's the really important fact of this strategy going forward. We see it as a partnership approach between community, businesses and council to setting our vision heading into 2030. It outlines a bold vision to grow a thriving, resilient and diverse economy focusing on 18 specific actions under 3 key pillars being strategic investment, business and employment growth and prosperous places. It positions our region as a hub for future focused industries while continuing to support our pillar industries of agriculture, mining and tourism. It was developed in collaboration with our Economic Development Advisory Group, the community, key stakeholders and council. Consultation on the strategy was out to the public. We had 25 individual submissions, 43 contributions at information stalls and comments from 10 key stakeholders. And Mr Mayor, if I may just talk to some of that feedback that we received and included into the final strategy. So there was broad support from the community and stakeholders for the strategy's pillars and actions. There was a desire to see vibrancy in our town centres and a key focus on those master plans that we've been progressing. There was strong support for an expanded TAFE service offering and university offering to help skill up the next generation coming through our region, to create a region where our young people can stay, they can learn and then they can contribute to our business and employment community. There was a focus on addressing affordable and diverse housing needs through the Local Housing Action Plan, which Council adopted last year. There was also a consideration for the strategy to include those environmental sustainability elements, recognising that our world-renowned natural assets is a competitive advantage. And important to note that that's been brought through the strategy and the actions. There's the support for advocacy in the health and education sectors, and also for business and events, initiatives and incentives. So Mr Mayor, the office's recommendation today is that Council adopt the Whitsunday 2030 Economic Development Strategy and delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to make amendments to the document data and information during the 5-year operation of the document to ensure that it remains current throughout the term of the strategy. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Dan. I'll speak to this one. I think quite excited by the adoption of the Whitsunday 2030 Economic Development Strategy. I think it really demonstrates a renewed focus on economic development in this term, and I think the effort to really engage the community, all aspects of the community and the development of this strategy has been really key to some of those themes that have shone through there. So I think it is a real North Star and a real direction for our region, particularly leading into that 2030 window, and really setting some really aspirational targets and where we want to see not only our traditional industries and sectors grow, but also unlock new opportunities in our region. So I want to commend the work of the team, Director Turner, Paul, in pulling this all together. I think what we've got now is really a good platform for the next 5 years to really drive our economic development activities within the organisation and ensure that Whitsundays continues to be a prosperous place in the future. So, anyone else like to question or comment? Councillor Finlay?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Your comments and Paul's comments as well is great as well. So I think this is a great plan. It's more than just a traditional economic development plan. As you said, brings the community together as well. Everyone's shared the input into this. We've got amazing community organisations and development organisations throughout the region that will network into this, and the EDAG group that's part of this has got players from all over the different industries, which is really, really good. Great to have that input in here. Really looking forward to put the rubber on the road with some of these strategies, Mr Mayor, and no doubt that's going to happen. Again, thanks to everyone for the efforts in putting this together, and it's really positive. Great positive feedback already out there in the community, as you know, Mr Mayor.
Any further council comments?
Congratulations, Paul and the team on this economic development strategy. But it's pleasing to read in the report there some of the stats that finally we've reached the 40,000. It says they're 40,700 odd, and in 20 years' time, close on 55,000 residents, and that's without the 20 odd thousand a week that come in as tourists. So I think it was 1.2 million tourists a year, and all of our seasonal workforce and stuff. So it's important that we look at this and keep growing onwards and upwards. Thank you.
Councillor. Any further comments, councillors? Good. Okay, the motion that council adopt the 2030 Economic Development Strategy attached to the report, and also delegate authority to the CEO to make amendments to the document, data and information during its 5-year operation. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Handler. Okay, moving on to item 11.2, Local Government Association Queensland 2025 Motions and Annual Conference. Mover, please. Move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Clifford. Bradshaw, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, you have before you 5 motions proposed for discussion at the 2025 Annual Local Government Association Queensland Annual Conference. There are opportunities to address or influence state policy and a number of initiatives that we've talked at through a workshop. First of those motions is about seeking clarity from the state government in relation to roles and responsibilities for local government around the operation of CCTV, and I suppose trying to work out there what's the role for local government, main roads, to Queensland Police Service, etc. So the second one is around seeking the state government to review the pensioner rate subsidy scheme. It's currently been sitting at $200 since about 2011. So having just adopted the budget with a council subsidy of $350, seeking the state's opportunity to review that. Third one relates to improvements and understanding of roles and responsibilities in the governance structures for river improvements trusts. That Act has recently been reviewed internally by the relevant state government department. But what we're seeking, I suppose, is clarity around the role of local government there outside of just funding the precept that we're served each year, and the roles and responsibilities for that going forward. The fourth one, somewhat topical in nature, is around trying to ascertain through the state government whether there can be a legislative mechanism put in place to deal with and manage vexation complainants to councils and local government more generally. That framework doesn't exist at the moment, and within the current local government legislation or associated legislation, there's no mechanisms for which to call that behaviour, and there just continues to be pressure on the resources for local government to continually manage those issues. And the last one, a little preemptive, but it's about seeking to ensure that the Red Tape Reduction Task Force report, which was due this month, early next month, actually gets some traction, and that there is monitoring of that implementation put in place by the state department responsible for local government, so that it's just not another report that sits on the shelf generated from another public inquiry. Happy to take any questions on what's proposed.
Thank you, Director. Any commentary or questions? I think I'll just comment on what's listed there. I think all of the motions being put forward are relevant. I think particularly in context of our earlier budget meeting today, there really are, we need to continue to highlight, I guess, areas that are generating expense for council, particularly where the state government has state or federal government has a particular interest. CCTV is something that, I think a community has come to expect, but, is very, very squarely in the realm of public safety, which has traditionally been managed by the Queensland Police Service, and I think even the delivery of that CCTV service, it is primarily for the benefit of the Queensland Police Service. We obviously touched on earlier the pensioner rebate subsidy. We know that the pensioners rely on that, but we also know that we are now out of lockstep with the state government in the contributions to supporting pensioner subsidies. And I think even though it's not in this report, there are a number of other areas that we're seeing costs now. I guess tourism promotion is probably one where we are out of lockstep with the state government, and we are doing more than our fair share. And I think that also echoes towards the River Improvement Trust. Council commits significant funds as required under the Act around River Improvement Trusts. And from what I can see, that's not matched by the state's commitment. And I think given it is their scheme, and they are the ultimate authority on those river resources, then we need them to really step up in their governance and funding responsibilities. I think the other ones there are relevant to what we're seeing more broadly in the organisation, and I'm supportive of the motion. Any further comment or questions, Councillor? Okay, the motion that Council submits the motions listed in the report to the Local Government Association of Queensland annual conference for consideration. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to item 11.3, development application for development permit, material change of use, outdoor sport and recreation, mini golf, 281 Shoot Harbour Road, Ely Beach.
I'd like to table this. I'll happily give my reasons. Apparently, the proponent is coming to meet with the CEO in a couple of weeks, or talking to him or something. She's gone to an awful, I don't like the look of what we saw and what was put out in the thing, I'll say that publicly. But the public has not yet seen I call it the Fred Flintstone version. And if we just table it to the next, give her a chance to address the parking and the visual amenity of the place, and then I think it may be okay if I could have something.
So Councillor Clifford, procedural motion to table the report.
Pending further
discussion between the CEO and the applicant. Are you happy with that conclusion? All those in favour? Hands up, please. Yep.
So, just before we put that to vote, Mr. Mayor, so through Council Clifford, so there's possibly a redesign of this? Is that what we're proposing or suggesting?
Maybe Director McGuffin, do you want to talk through?
Considering we just got that petition.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Maybe status update before we...
Look, there's been a whole lot of communication between the proponent and council staff that's ended up with the CEO once the proponent became aware that the recommendation was for refusal. Given the time and the budget and everything else that the CEO had on his plate, he wasn't able to meet with the proponent yesterday. We did provide the opportunity or the suggestion that they might like to put it on hold or pull it or whatever, and the advice this morning was just thank the mayor for his thank the CEO for his email, and the proponent will be back in a fortnight to talk to the CEO. So that's all I have.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Dean, do you have something to add to your...
Yeah, no, that's the basis of why I'd like to table it, just to enable, some ongoing dialogue, because I'm so supportive of any land-based activity that we can have in region. Not everyone can afford to go out to the reef, every weekend and things like that, and just to have a different activity, I think, would be really, really good. But it needs to be appealing and sustainable and all the rest of it.
Any other questions to the Director? I don't think we finalised that procedural motion vote. Anything you want to ask first? No? Okay, so can I put James...
Question, if that's okay, to Director McGuffin. I know this it's more a permanent situation with the parking, but we've just recently put the Ferris wheel up, and she's got a fair argument here that they don't provide any parking. There's numerous people coming from out of town to go to the Ferris wheel, and I realise on such a small lot of land it's going to be really hard to meet council's requirements with parking unless you build upwards fairly high, but I'd just like that taken into account in the future, maybe.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, just respond to Councillor Simpson's comment. Certainly the proponents raised the issue of the Ferris wheel going up without car parking. Look, there are subtle differences. There are similarities between the Ferris wheel and the mini golf. The Ferris wheel can pack up and go, it's not there permanently. There are provisions in the agreement that if council's unhappy, we can say, off you go. The discussion around the temporary nature of the mini golf was happy to consider it, but you'd need to sort of pack up everything and move it if you wanted to be at the same consideration as the Ferris wheel as far as being a temporary nature. Yes, I can fully understand the comparisons.
Councillor Wright.
Through the chair. Councillor Clifford, I'm glad you did table it because I was going to vote against the refusal today. I'm in support of this application. I think it's perfect location. It's bringing families into town. I think, and we want our businesses to succeed. Like if it was out of town, would it be successful and sustainable if it wasn't in a central location where there's constant foot traffic? So yeah, I want to see something like this go ahead. And yeah, it probably does serve a purpose. Like the families are going to the lagoon, going to mini golf. There's a variety of things to do, and I think it's great that we do cater for different ages and families as well. So I'm supportive of this and I'm supportive of tabling for further discussion.
Would it be possible to encourage the proponent to release the Fred Flintstone video? Because all people out there have seen is the 47-foot high T-Rex lurking, hovering over the taxi rank. So just a suggestion. It might sway.
I think I will be encouraging the applicant to put their full proposal on the table so that actually can be public. So rather than little bits and pieces, we have the full proposal, whether that includes a video or other components. That's particularly important for the team to do a full assessment of the whole.
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor, just a point of clarity too, there's an aspect of the development impacts on the asset I have curtilage of, and that's, if you look at the plans post, it actually shows one of the taxi rank shelters being relocated away from the front of the property. So we're currently working our way through what does that look like, can that be facilitated, whose cost should it be, what commitments have been given previously. So regardless of what it looks like, there's another aspect to it that does impact on the amenity of the main street, flows into the Airlie Precinct master plan as well. But something else we have to work through. Thank you, Mr.
Philip.
Probably one further aspect of this is the car parking, Mr. Mayor, and how we've discussed that. And, I guess that's something we probably need to have a briefing session on to discuss the legalities of the infrastructure agreement regarding car parking or car parking contributions. So I'd like to sort of put that on the table. At some stage to get a bit of an update on where we're going with that.
Any more questions before we proceed with the banners? Okay, so we've got Councillor Clifford's got a procedural motion there to table the development application relating to this DA, pending further discussion with the CEO. All those in favour? The procedural motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
Moving on to item 11.4, development application for development permit reconfiguration of a lot 1 into 4 at 345 Riordanvale Road, Riordanvale. Move Councillor Simpson. Second. You moved it, Councillor Simpson?
Yeah.
Yes. Second, Councillor Collins. Director McGuffin, would you like to speak to this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a development application for a 4-lot subdivision at Riordanvale Road at Riordanvale. Might not be familiar to a lot of the councillors, but it's just past the land that's subject, as you can see on the plan on the top side, the peak, which is the Whitsunday Green development that goes all the way across, and it's just up around the corner. It's probably better reflected, the locality is better reflected on the plan at the bottom. It's a long, thin block nestled amongst rural residential development. There are several overlays that the officers have had to take into account. None of the overlays have unnecessarily restricted the development. In this instance, there are effectively 3 rear lots, even though the dwelling is on proposed lot 3. Access is from the existing location on Redenvale Road. In part of the report, there was an error that the intersection didn't comply with some of the engineering standards. There is a speed suggested zone of 40 kilometres when approaching the site from the north. There isn't one from the south, and that the infrastructure services have that in mind, and that is on its way to be implemented. Even though it has technical access from Sugarloaf Road, the access through there is not trafficable. Not sure why that was ever created, but nonetheless it's there. The proposed driveway with the access will be off Redenvale Road, and that's about 400 metres long. The conditions have been imposed that it's 5.5 metres wide and complies with Council's development manual. That's the aerial photograph. You can see that the area is quite heavily timbered. All that's been taken into account. Certainly the concerns that we've had due regard to is the stormwater and bushfire. The technical reports have been provided by the proponent, and the conditions have been imposed to address those aspects of the development. Overall, while the development complies with the code, there is a compromise in respect that the planning scheme says there should only be 1 rear allotment. This is clearly contrary to that. Nonetheless, it complies with everything else. It is a rural residential zone. Access is acceptable. There are suitable envelopes for dwellings and effluent disposal on site, and on the basis of that, it is recommended for approval subject to conditions.
Thank you, Director. Any questions for the Director? Anyone like to speak to the motion? Councillor Blunt?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Well, thank you for passing on the concerns about the speed signage there. It was relative. It doesn't meet the minimum sight distance, but it does meet 2 other categories. And once you did take into account a speed reduction sign on the corner, it met those. So I think it's important to us to be sure that infrastructure is in place, improve the safety of people on that road. Gary Simpson, Councillor Simpson would tell you I go around that corner at 40 kilometres an hour each and every time. For me, there's a couple of things here. I think the 2 submissions came from people on Sugarloaf Road, which under the planning rules, there would have been a development sign whacked up on the end of that narrow little bit on their street. And the submissions generally voice concern about someone trying to cut a driveway up through there, which I think is not part of this. My other reason I'll be supporting this, it does go against one performance outcome, but the fact is that not all of these lots are bounding on the minimum lot size. I think, we can look, we have a number of these long blocks already zoned rural residential. We want infill development there rather than taking up more rural land. But, if these started packing in at 4,000 square metres per lot, I could see amenity issues with the surrounding properties. So hopefully that's something that's touched on in our rural residential strategy going forward, but it's just some of the reasons I'll be supporting this recommendation today.
Anyone else like to speak to the...
Just to touch on, I know it's relatively vegetated there, but I did notice additional conditions under clearing, landscaping and fencing. So we've got things relative to Australian standards for pruning of existing trees, invasive plants and reduce the spread of weeds. I'm always happy to see extra conditions in vegetated areas that we are looking after the existing vegetation. Thank you.
Okay, the motion that council approve the application for development permit reconfiguration of lot 1 into 4 at 345 Riordanvale Road, Riordanvale. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 11.5, request for negotiated decision notice, development application for development permit for reconfiguration of a lot, 1 into 2 lots and access easement, 47 Giles Road, Strathickie.
I'll move to support the recommendation.
Move Councillor Simpson, second Councillor Clifford. Director McGaffin, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This application was approved by council back in February, and because of it being so recent, they have been able to use the negotiated decision notice and come back and argue and negotiate the conditions of approval with council. Thanks, that's just an IT hiccup, but I've sorted it out. Rural residential development, 2-lot subdivision. Again, this is another subdivision that is affected by a lot of overlays that you would imagine in a rural residential area. It is your typical battle axe block at the rear. Yep. Thank you. As you can see there, the lot 2, the access is a very long, thin access. It was conditioned to a 5.5 metre wide width. The manual required ceiling. Council agreed with the proponent and didn't require the ceiling, but did ask for the 5.5 metre wide easement. The proponent has come back and asked for it to be 3 metres wide with passing bays every 30 metres. The officer's approach is certainly along the lines that to comply with the development manual is reasonable for a 5.5 metre easement to allow the two-way traffic. While it hasn't been proposed so far, lot 2 can be further subdivided, and again you would have increased access along the easement, and that's the reason why the request is not to vary that condition. The proponents have also asked to delete a condition that required the removal of vegetation within 30 metres of dwellings. That's been investigated, and there are no flammable species within that 30 metres. What that means, it doesn't really matter whether the condition stays or goes, but we've agreed with the proponent's request and recommend that that condition be deleted. So that's where we sit, Mr Mayor.
Speak for the matter, Councillor
Yeah,
Simpson.
just to back up Director Neil, originally I was thinking about supporting their proposal for the 3 metre wide road, but when it's zoned rural res and there is potential for this block to be cut up further, so I'll support the officer's recommendation to go for 5.5 metre road.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I didn't vote for the approval to stay unsealed in February. I'll speak to that a little bit, and here I do support us looking at this overall in our rural residential strategy, but for me, this is the thing, you allow them without unsealed, then they come back and ask for a narrower unsealed, and that for me means ongoing erosion, ongoing maintenance, ongoing costs. I think this is a 2-lot subdivision, but as I said, there's room for expansion going forward. I really think when we're dealing with these sort of developments, it's in the best interest to get something that is low maintenance and sustainable going forward, put in at the initial subdivision stage, and then the owners and residents who take up those blocks can live quite happily ever after. I know from experience growing up on an easement that we put together with the neighbours and put in a concrete easement, because living on unsealed easement simply is unsustainable, especially in our weather and wet seasons around here. So I won't be voting to support this recommendation because it remains unsealed. I don't know whether just to abstain from the vote. It ends up the same on paper, but as I said, due to my reasons in February, I'll stand by them today.
Could I ask, carrying on from Councillor Bowman, could I ask the director, if they did want to subdivide again, that would be another DA? And if they did, we could condition that they had to put in a concrete driveway?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, we would certainly look at that depending on how many lots they wanted to create. It would have an impact on the access.
Councillor Roth?
Thank you. Look, I didn't really have an issue with the proponent's proposal, and I was considering that. But Director Neal, if you say if it's just for the 2 lots, I don't have an issue with what they're proposing. But if there is potential for further subdivision, that's probably when it's probably better off to stay like that. But I guess after listening to Councillor Clifford, so there is opportunity then to further condition it if it does come back for further subdivision. Would that come back to council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I expect it would, given that this has already been to council. There would be an issue about the standard of the easement as opposed to assess it with more lots under the requirements of the development manual. I'd imagine that would not be done through delegation because of the fact that the standard's already been reduced now and may be reduced if the applicant's request is achieved.
So we would be able to condition it? Is that a yes?
Yes, you would be
Yes.
able to condition it as you're able to condition it now if you wish.
So I guess based on the application, I'm going to go with, I'm probably going to refuse this because I'm quite happy with the way that, what they put forward. Knowing that we can condition it down the track if there is further subdivision, because that was my concern as well. I won't support the recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, I support the recommendation. I think if we don't, we're setting a big precedent. We've already knocked back a previous application that wanted to do something like this, and we said no, stuck to our guns, and we wanted the 5.5. I know of other applications that are out there that have seen the original approval on this and probably happy to proceed on, we presume. Haven't been in touch with those people, but I think if we relax on this, it sets a precedent, Mr. Mayor.
We already have relaxed on it.
No, we haven't. We've set a 5.5 metre wide and unsealed, happy for that, but not relaxation on the 5.5 metre wide.
Okay. Further comments to the vote? No? Okay, the motion that council part approves and part refuses the negotiation decision notice, one lot into 2 lots at 47 Giles Road, Strathdickey. Approved deleting conditions 9.1 and 9.2, which relate to the vegetation, and refused to amend condition 6.5, which relates to the road width. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against?
Abstaining since council.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that 5-2?
So, yeah, 5-2. Thank you. 5-4-2 against.
And a division, please.
Division.
Thank you.
Please record the division. Councillor Wright. And
Councillor Bowman.
Councillor Bowman.
Abstained.
Abstained.
What did you abstain for?
No?
Why did you abstain when you know it's a vote for negative anyway?
The problem is he voted a different way on the last time it came up, so
In my opinion, differs from Councillor Wright's.
yes.
So
Yes.
I'm trying to separate this.
Voted against it.
Alright.
Well, I'm letting you have to use your stand.
Come on, it's only lunchtime, it's already been a long day, I don't think this. Alright, it gets easier. Alright, item 11.6, donations, sponsorships, in-kind requests and grants approved May 2025. Move Councillor Collins, second Councillor Finlay. Director Julie, would you like to take your report? Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, councillors. I'll take the report as read. It's just the donation, sponsorship, in-kind requests and grants approved during May 2025 for anybody that hasn't. Just a quick summary. There was 15 junior elite athlete grants approved, 1 donation, 2 in-kind donations, 7 sponsorships, 21 sport and rec club grants, and 3 donation on council fees approved. Councillors will see that a number of the budget lines are exhausted. However, the shortfall will be supported through positive budget lines within the community services and facilitation budget, as we've still got the June. We're in the process of June anyway. Applications still coming in. Thanks, councillors.
Any questions on the report?
Probably just ask the director to speak specifically to Landcare's refusal. I was out at a presentation by Scott Hardy last night to the community about biosecurity and stuff, and somebody there just asked me, I know we've discussed it, I'd just like the director to explain where we are in the financial year and also the next financial year, just that Landcare is obviously doing revegetation on council property. So just that where we'll be in a position to assist them next financial year. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillor, Catchment Landcare had a couple of donations this year. One for their application on their fees, on their building application, plus a bit of work done in their driveway, so they could get in and out through the wet season there. There is no fee mulch at the moment. So basically, we just advise Catchment Landcare to wait until the free mulch comes about, which it generally does throughout the year, and that way they can get all the free mulch that they like.
Any further comments or questions, Councillor Finlay?
Just in relation to, we just adopted the community donations budget policy next year. So are we going to write to every community organisation out there advising of this? Because of that policy? Because obviously it's big changes. Because in here, for instance, under approved sponsorship applications, say Bowen Junior Golf, we're sponsoring the golf trophy or whatever it is, $250. Obviously, they can apply if they are a separate corporate body under the other grant, or depends on the numbers, of $1,000. So that's the sort of thing I guess we just need to be out there with the groups. If they apply for this, they've got to know that we're not going to get the club grant for $1,000.
I guess the question really is what does the comms look like for the updated policy?
So preempting today's decision, Mr. Mayor, the letters have been drafted, ready to go, plus engagement with our comms team to go out as well. So it'll all, the girls are feverishly working on getting them all out ASAP.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just on the back of that is, within those communications, I'd just like to ensure we are mentioning about Grant Guru and council's support by financing groups within that. I know a couple of people have spoken to me about having issues and being asked for payment, working their way around, but yeah, it's something to get Grant Guru end, but I think it is just worthwhile mentioning to people that Grant Guru is available there for them to utilise to look for other grants. Obviously, we'll take any chance to advocate for Smarty grants as we move forward. If we really want our groups to be out there and in the current playing field at Smarty grants, I watch Grant Guru, and often by time it notifies me, half the application time is gone. I find it very difficult. I try and notify different groups that are relative to those grants, but by the time I even get the application through Grant Guru, you've lost half of your grant writing application time. So I think we can work better and smarter towards facilitating outside sources of funding for these groups. Thank you.
Motion that council note the financial support across the different categories there listed in the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Number 11.7, Commercial Business Quarter 3 Report, January to March 2025. Move Councillor Finlay, second Councillor Clifford. Director Turner,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
speak to it.
So just with regards to the quarter from January to March, just a few highlights with regards to what we've been able to achieve. I think one of the great ones was the sustainable aviation fuel, so the SAF fuel for Virgin, to be the first airport in Australia to trial that. I think it aligns to the destination. It really does sort of sit well with what we're trying to do from a perspective around nature and renewable, sustainable. So it was a really good achievement, and having the sustainability manager for Virgin come up at the World Environment Day was also great. So to be able to see the mayor and the like talk about that initiative was a great thing. So numbers, 117,000 passengers. It's worth noting February and March was softer than last year. We put that down to weather potentially. The numbers have recovered through the balance of the month. So it's not in the report, but we are on track to do over 520,000 passengers for this financial year, which was an uplift of 507,000 last year. So those numbers have recovered. Average load factor, 83%. Again, a bit softer than we would have thought, but that was actually brought down by the months of February and March. We launched the Know Before You Go website, and what that's about is actually working with passengers that have particular needs. We're trying to work hard in this space, so we've just undertaken to do the Sunflower Initiative. Now this one as well. So what we're trying to do is make sure that people at the airport, regardless of their needs, are actually getting a good experience. And that's a place we want to continue to work in and find opportunities to make sure everyone has a good experience at the airport. Collinsville, the lighting upgrade commenced. Happy to report that that's now concluded. And again, that was delivered on time and under budget, which was a great result. So Shute Harbour Marine Terminal, 14,000 resort connections through the terminal. So that's going to Hamilton Island, and also we've started a 12 o'clock service to Daydream Island as well. So that's actually a really good result. We'll continue to work in that space to see whether we can't continue to grow connectivity to the islands. 38,000 cruise ship visitors. We hosted 12 ships through that period. 2 of those actually were overnight stays. So the overnight stays, the staff hop off the boat, they go and spend money. So from an economic perspective, the overnight ships really do contribute significantly to the economy of Airlie. 74 islands, bar and bistro commenced operations at Shute Harbour, and all accounts that's been well received. So good result. One thing I'll just mention here too is the fuel sales are starting to pick up with super yachts. So as the cooler months are coming in, we're seeing a significant uplift. An example of that is a yacht came in, last week and bunkered 80,000 litres of fuel in 1 year. So, these are, we want to keep working in that space to provide an opportunity for the likes of those cruise ships to use the Shute Harbour facility. Also worth noting the amount of events we're holding at Shute now. So the upstairs facility is great for obviously using it for council purposes, but certainly Cruising Car Club. We obviously had the Masquerade Ball there for the Women's Legal Services Queensland, and we'll continue in that space there. So that's important to diversify what we do. Finalise the economic development strategy and also the Bowen Foreshore Master Plan. Coordinated state budget submissions and develops to federal election wish list for key stakeholders. This is economic development. Grants and funding secured $29.9 million for funds for Whitsunday Regional Sports Park, the Cannondale Community Hub, legal dumping programs, secured an extra $4.4 million for fire resilience projects. So the ED team's doing an amazing job sourcing those grants, and to Councillor Bowman's point before, finding out when the grants come out and getting to the people is really important. That's probably one of the challenges, is making sure we can actually get the data, send it out, provide the best opportunity for getting our fair share of the grants. And again, hosting events, State of the Region with Andis at the Proserpine Entertainment Centre, over 140 people. I thought that was a great initiative. Council obviously endorsed a major event sponsorship for the Ramped Up program for a second year. And again, we secured the Shute Harbour World Environment Day. So Foxdale Quarry, the weather's been challenging for the quarry, and it's this time of year, but certainly production-wise, we really did get some impacts. The weather finding up now, the focus is to really drive as much production as we can, so we can actually get that product out the door. The staff during that time, they concluded maintenance. They actually did a range of things, so they weren't idle. They were actually using that time to do a maintenance program. And holiday parks, just some investment there around capital, so backup generators. For events to be able to have them firing up, not actually being left in the dark. So that was a great initiative. We've done up the bathrooms, camp kitchens, laundries. We've done that to try and improve the experience of the parks. We know that people will potentially pay a bit more if they've got great facilities around camp kitchens, your amenity blocks and your toilet spaces, your pool spaces. So they were strategic investments that we think will get a return on based on improving the experience for those customers. And again, so with Lake Proserpine, we have events. So we had the Queensland Music Trials event on Thursday night. About 300 people. We thought there'd be more. They had an RSVP, but I think the weather might have just put some people off, which was a bit of a shame. And then this weekend we've got the Barra and Boots Festival. So over 550 people have RSVP'd for that event. So it should be a good event as well. And we'll continue to play in that space about how do we keep activating these assets for the benefit of residents but tourists as well. Happy to take any questions if you like. Thank you.
Any questions for the Director on the report?
Mr. Mayor, not so much on the report, but the region has just recently had some outstanding successes from the tourism point of view. And as we know, we contribute towards Tourism Whitsunday and Tourism Bowen as well, for those two organisations, and they do a wonderful job of promoting our region. And as we know, we got the Big Mango as the big thing in the Queensland. We've got the Birds Fish and Chip Bar up in Bowen as the best fish and chip shop in Queensland as well. And then we've just got Eddie Teach Town being announced as the town, and also Bowen, Mr. Mayor. And that only happens when you've got great organisations that we contribute to pushing the barrow for the tourism side of things. So I think that's a great outcome for our community. I mean, you talk about the Big Mango. I don't know how you can put actually a value on the social and economic value of that mango there. The number of people that come through that place, it's limited parking spaces, Mr. Mayor, up there at the moment. The amount of traffic that's going up and down that highway and pulling into that place, yeah, it's incredible. But yeah, I think we just extend our congratulations to both those organisations for their efforts in the promoting of our area, and obviously those business houses and the Big Mango as well.
Just in regards to just in the Whitsunday Coast Airport, the airport attended the East Coast Roadshow. Where would that have been, Craig?
The East Coast Roadshow was Adelaide, Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne.
Why are your council staff doing this? Isn't that what we pay Tourism Whitsunday for? I mean, I know in the presentation that Whitsunday Tourism gave us, they actually thanked the airport staff for attending some of these things. I mean, I thought that was their job, not council's airport staff. You know, it's something I've questioned the CEO with for the last 2 years. Actually, yeah. So.
Yes, thank you. Through the Met. So yes, Tourism Whitsundays goes down to these events along with 17 other businesses. So those are the businesses also promoting other airports, other places to be able to come through the airport. So for us, I think one of the changes since I've been looking after the airport is we actually go about mitigating risk of load factors and driving visitation and demand. So it's complementary to Tourism Whitsundays, but we don't feel we can sit back and just let the people come. We want to be a part of that solution. And when we talk to the airlines about new routes, we actually say we're going to help drive demand, mitigate risk, and that's why we've been successful a lot of the times. But we can't just hope that's going to happen. So that's the reason we go to those particular events. And again, they're strategic. We think about it. We know that the money that we're spending, is council ratepayer money. It's commercial money, so they're not taken lightly, and they're done for strategic reasons to try and set ourselves up to succeed.
Any further comments, Councillor London?
Thank you. Thanks, Director Craig. I'll probably just come back to Sheet Harbour Marine Terminal. First off, I think the event space and opening that up to the Domestic and Family Violence Women's Legal Service events, great thing for the community, the charity, but also the visitation of many people around the region to know what's on offer. great event. Just to tie back into the budget, the removal of the code of competitive conduct on Chute Harbour Marine Terminal, whether that will affect pricing strategies, and also referring back to the community service obligations. As the free 1 hour parking community service obligations, does Chute Harbour Marine Terminal cover the operational costs of the fishing jetty and things like that? Are these all other community service obligations?
Thank you, Councillor Bowden, through the Mayor. So there absolutely are CSOs with regards to the area. The fishing pontoon actually sits with Director Gary, so that's actually a marine asset. So that would be in Gary's CSOs. But yes, certainly we consider the CSOs of providing the berthing of boats from Hamilton, so the kids could children go to school in Proserpine and the like. So they're all considered and captured. And again, with the CEO, we've been working hard to make sure we get all those. I think a lot of the time we do it and it's reactive. We need to have a register that allows us to capture that so that we can see the full value of what the community service obligation is delivered.
Greg, I'd just like to highlight that you spoke to the announcement around the sustainable aviation fuel, which has come up this quarter. I actually think that's a really significant announcement for our region, and I think there's a number of reasons for that. I think it really positions our airport at the front of I guess becoming more sustainable, and looking at new ways of managing aircraft and how they impact the broader environment. And I think that speaks really well to our region for a couple of reasons. I guess being the tourism component, we do position ourselves as an eco-tourism destination, a sustainable tourism destination, and I think that narrative in itself will support the growth of visitors into our region. I think the other one that I think, and this is I think there's more to be done here, is the state government announced their biofuel initiative this week, which is really very much centred around sugarcane and the opportunities for the sugarcane industry to really diversify what they do more broadly in that biofuel space. So given the significance of our local sugarcane industry, I think there's the potential for a symbiotic relationship there between our tourism and agricultural sectors to say we're both doing things that are not only taking our region forward but becoming more sustainable and more diverse in what we're doing. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if you don't mind, I might just say too that we're about to undertake a trial where we're going to be using green cleaning products. And I'm sure Councillor Bowman will be happy to hear this, but we'll be going away from using Roundup, for example, and using a natural biodegradable. So that's going to be trialled at the airport. It's manufactured locally. It's a local company. So we've met with them. We're just going through the pricing structures at the moment. But we are trying to make sure that our footprint is green. And again, if the trial is successful, I think there might be an opportunity for council to look at that as a whole, to be honest.
Sorry, Councillor Wright, I forgot her.
Thank you. Through the chair. Craig, just with the funding, one of the funding applications, the country roads, just saying here that obviously collateral for ministerials in February, March were put in. So I guess just this is probably one of the major things for the western part of the region, and it will be life changing if we can get this for our big roads. So just wondering when that announcement, or whether when that might be coming up.
I'd have to take that through the mayor. Sorry, take
I
that.
can speak that, Councillor Wright. So yeah, I think there was one that I think obviously initiative of the new government through I guess the advocacy meetings in Brisbane there had really identified they were going to have this funding opportunity become available. So the minister wrote to us sometime in around about March there. Not a grant opportunity, but an expression of interest in what we would potentially like to see go forward for that project. I guess through my liaison with Director Gary around where the priorities were, and I believe I spoke with a number of councillors around unsealed roads in our region. Gary and his team took forth, I guess, a further discussion with TMR around Bowen Development Road and Sutter Development Road to a lesser degree, given it is a main road. So I guess following that, the application was put forward. Quite a significant, I guess the funding opportunity and the significance of work required to fix that road were probably a little bit out of step, but I think ultimately where they ended up was an agreement that what was put forward was potentially a phased approach. The funding opportunity was to progress over a number of years, and really the opportunity this year was to put forward a section that would match this year's funding pot. So my understanding is that will come out as a budget announcement in the Queensland budget. And also probably note that Minister Last, who's is also a signatory to that funding opportunity, is the local MP for that area and quite supportive of the project as well. I think yesterday it was probably reiterated in the discussion. We had the Regional Roads and Transport Group meeting with TMR, which is our first in 12 months, and it was good to hear that from TMR's regional director that that particular funding opportunity aside, they were actually quite progressed in a ceiling design for Bowen Developmental Road. So I'd love to say we're confident in that will be funded through country roads to some form, but if not, it sounds like the wheels are in motion there anyway. So,
Very positive.
yeah. Councillor Finlay.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just been using the airport a bit lately. Just happened to notice coming in the other day, on the right hand side as you're facing the runway, there seems to be some development going on there.
Absolutely, that's through there. Thank you, Councillor Finlay. So that's the irrigation area for the sewage treatment plant upgrade work we're doing at the moment. So that we've been having a number of matters around compliance when it comes to the usage of the facilities. You can appreciate everyone lands in or about the same time, so they all need to do look after themselves when they're landing. So we've been working with Troy's team, Gary's team, and that works well underway. And so that'll deliver us a plant that'll provide us at least 10 years of growth.
Is that where the new plant's going to be put, or is that just the effluent area?
That's the effluent. So that's it. So we've worked out exactly what it needed to be. So that clearing area, that's all the irrigation pipes.
Craig, I know you're not Nostradamus, and Rye, you met with the main roads. Any idea, any news on, dare I say, Shoot Harbour boat ramp at all, or anything happening down there? I don't, obviously there's some private stuff, but just curious if there's anything that's happening. Sorry, mate.
That's fine. Thanks, Councillor Collins, through the Mayor. So we actually are undertaking the Shoot Harbour precinct plan at the moment. So we organised a meeting with TMR to engage them around what that does look like. So they are actually in the process of developing a plan for the Grubby Bay, but it also takes the 4-lane car parks and other things from Shoot. So I would say it's well progressed. They did explain that they are very aware of the priority with the Minister, obviously. So that's a priority for them. So I left the meeting very confident that they're actually progressing fast.
That's good.
I think just adding to that, Councillor Collins, the brief from both the Transport Minister and the local member, they're recosting a lot of these election promises at the moment.
Good on you.
So that's, I think, indicative of probably their own budget position. But the local members also highlighted that along with the commitment she made to the Northern Beaches Road were the two that she'd really said needed to be done this term. So,
thank you.
Just Director Craig out. The challenge, if you're talking about Grubby Bay versus the current boat ramp, the current boat ramp is still ours. Not our asset, but we're maintaining it. So the challenge is going to be what do we do in the interim ahead of a major development? How much money does council want to invest in car parking on that section of Shoot Harbour Road coming up to Shoot Harbour Terminal, and also how much money we're going to invest in maintaining the boat ramp and doing anything, the existing fishing pontoon and the existing access ramp onto the boats, which is all pretty ordinary.
Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any further questions of the Director?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the motion the Council received the Commercial Business Directorate Quarterly Report from January to March 2025 as per the attachment. Put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Next item is item 11.8, Infrastructure Services Quarter 3 Report, January to March 2025. Move Councillor Collins, second Councillor Clifford. Director Murphy, do you want to answer this one, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we've got plenty of time.
You got as much time as you want.
Yeah. And also, listen, it gives me great pleasure because normally I don't get to go last, but technically this is the best waited for last because the
We've got a supplementary.
the financial report is a supplementary report, not.
Oh, okay.
A couple of things. So within the report, councillors, hope you notice that there's been a fairly big focus on safety during that quarter. So we're transitioning to a new safety management system and helping out the safety team with championing their cause. But from a directorate perspective, I think we've done a cracking job in actually dealing with all the historical safety incidents, the actions arising from investigations and workplace inspections, and the statistics for the department overall have really come down in relation to actioning and following through and helping other parts of our business actually deal with safety incidents, corrective actions and the like. So we've only got a couple of active ones, and I think it's a credit to the organisation that we've actually had such a great focus on safety. Councillor Finlay mentioned the Small Towns Tourism Awards. Again, I think you don't get those without the presentation of the towns, and Mayor Collins did mention that in his press releases, linked in other locations where he's promoted Whitsundays and the achievement of those two awards. But just a shout out to the infrastructure teams, both in roading, because they do a lot of maintenance of the roadside vegetation and the roads themselves, but also Parks and Gardens team for the presentation of those public areas. So it really is, great recognition for their efforts, and I think the ownership. Particularly, I want to give a shout out to the Parks team, because in my time here, we've sort of said, even if it's not your asset, you're going to cop it in the neck in relation to its presentation. So just take it on board and get into it. And to their credit, they've accepted that responsibility across all of our town centres and our high tourist use areas. And I think it's starting to pay dividends in that it's not about, is it my job? It's about, is it something that needs to be done to promote the townships in the best possible light? So yeah, great outcomes. A couple other things quickly. During the period, remembering this is for the third quarter, so it's a January to March period. But we did progress the Kelsey Creek solution for a new cell. It's open now. It's been a challenging project over the line. We did get the additional funding for the Suda and Bowen Development Roads, which we mentioned in relation to the Country Roads Connect. I'm happy to say that that $1.34 million is largely expended. We've managed to open up another pit, it was a TMR pit, so we've actually got some good outcomes there in relation to managing the business of maintaining roads going forward, with us getting access into main roads, infrastructure, but also that's all been done in-house whilst we've engaged dozers and crushing gear from our panel of providers. The actual management of the project and delivery of the outcomes actually been delivered by our own crews, which I think is a great outcome. But with Whitsundays, and our crews are really proud of the work they've done. Probably just to finish, just a progression of network plans and an opportunity for the future. Note today that in relation to what the performance reporting looks like in future, we've adopted performance plans for our business units. In those performance plans, there's actually KPIs and indicative performance reporting, and the plan is to try and incorporate that type of reporting in the future updates to council on the department's quarterly progress. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to take questions.
Just, Gary, I know it's actually the fourth quarter, but the fence at the cemetery, it's up finally, thank you. And also just like to comment on your Parks and Gardens. I mean, it hasn't stopped raining since November,
Exactly.
up until the last quarter, and they've done a marvellous job keeping the place under control. Also, from all reports, the facilities for Anzac Day were immaculate. Thank you very much to the crew.
Councillor Finlay.
Mayor, just happened to notice that the dirty water complaints are up a bit in Bowen. It's a bit of a concern. We haven't had that for a long time since we've had the water treatment plant. I presume this has been caused by some broken services. A bit of mud's gone through that sort of process. So, and there's a substantial number of broken services in the coastal area as well. And I guess I'm just wondering, Mr. Mayor, if some of that, and I've seen how you do the measle mapping around the place, if some of those mains are going to be targeted possibly in the capital works budget that we just adopted.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor. We use the measle mapping depending on what the nature of the failure is, because it might be a collar issue, or could be an issue unrelated to effectively achieving the useful life of the asset. So it's a balance. So the answer is yes and no. Yeah. So we will use the measle mapping to inform the renewal program, but it depends on what the failure mechanism is and whether it's a consumption of useful life failure or some other thing that we just accept that we're going to keep on fixing it because of the problem inherent in the materials used to construct the pipe. So it's a mix of the two.
Director, I just wanted to comment on your report. I think much stronger narrative for this particular quarter, really talking to what's happening inside your business, as well as the data that supports it there. So even some pictures as well, which I think, I think just reinforce that. I think there's good work occurring in your directorate. Also picking up on your comment there, receiving that recognition for some of our towns, and just echoing that sentiment of the fantastic job that the teams have been doing. And I think, as I said in that particular piece, getting outside the region, you do notice a difference, and I think it's something we can hang our hat on, and obviously receiving some recognition more broadly for that. So probably just one question I had, there was some change at a state level over last month regarding gravel pits. Really just want to, I guess, a high-level overview for you on what that means for our business, particularly in maintaining our rural road network.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's effectively a change in legislation that used to provide for the use of certain resources to work around gravel permits during emergency periods, which now it's extended that provision to enable us to use a gravel pit if there's no other alternative. So for us, we need to still make an argument that says that it's not cost effective to bring material from another location. We still need to obviously manage native title, so there's a few challenges with how it will actually work in practical application. So what does it mean for us? We're currently continuing our review of our gravel pits. We've got one of our internal resources working their way through that at the moment. Interestingly enough, the gravel we've just won to do the development roads, we've immediately had an inquiry from government agencies in relation to the volume, who's been doing the work, are we appropriately qualified? So, again, we need to make sure that we're compliant. So, so what it means for us is that as we identify which pits have a viable amount of material that we currently either do or don't have the current sales permit to go and operate, if there's any issues there, we'll have a look at the provisions of that change in legislation to see whether or not that provides an easier pathway for us. And the argument we would normally use is that, number one, it's close, it's an appropriate material, and we most likely damage the network or incur considerable cost if we had to bring material from another location. So we'll use the ability to enact that new provision. We'll use that as part of our assessment now as to the viability of using our materials. Thank you.
Questions? That's all right.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, just a quick question. Yeah, thank you. I like this report. It's very good. And just in regards to the Bowen landfill cell, obviously now that we've adopted the budget, I hope it's full steam ahead for the new cell. And I guess when are we starting that?
That's a wonderful question, Mr. Mayor. Happy to take that one. Councillors, you'll see, I think, 13th of August, we're booked in to come and talk to you about the work we've been doing to understand the hydrology and the hydraulics of the Bowen landfill. You will see work happen on the ground, most likely this financial year, but it's largely to be preparatory earthworks. I can give you some great news, that is that we've spent a lot of time checking and making sure that all the assumptions and all the reports and investigations that have been done historically are accurate. There's more capacity in Bowen in the current cell than what we believe we had, so we actually have more breathing space than what we thought, considerably more breathing space than what we thought, because we've redone the entire airspace model within the bounds of our current approval and our current licence to fill Cell 2. The challenge I have to give you a definitive answer about am I starting work on the ground tomorrow is no, I can't, and that is because there are so many inconsistencies and challenges with the hydrologic reports and the hydrological performance of cells and borrow pits and sedimentation ponds and leachate, where monitoring bores are. We've had to go back and almost start from scratch with understanding the entire model of the landfill. So we're confident we have a short-term solution that will enable us to build what I'll call Cell 3 Light, which is another 3 to 4 years of breathing space to give us a solution which we'll start on in the near future. But the issue will be we're most likely only going to be able to do preliminary earthworks to get us to a point of being ready to go to contract, because there's going to be lots of things I won't know for a little while to actually fully design the cell, because interrelationships. So the answer is you won't see dirt being moved very shortly. but you will see earthworks being undertaken, and we're coming back to you on the 13th of August with a lot more information to break it down into right-sized chunks and talk to you about where we go from here. There's lots of issues with the bores. We've had a conversation with DETSI. I'm not sharing anything that the regulator's not aware of. They're working with us to give us time to actually better plan. And it's, like most things, I've got a pretty good idea where Kelsey Creek's going. I've got a fairly good idea now where Bowen's going, so we will have a landfilling option. We've got plenty of capacity, but the plan that has been put before council multiple times showing where cells are going at Bowen, that plan needs a lot of rework.
Thank you, Director. I guess, 3 to 4 years, is that what we've got left in that cell, would you say?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm hoping to give you a solution that will give you the 3 to 4 years. So at the moment, we've got what we think is potentially 12 months worth of life or more in the current cell, filling to the maximum footprint. Again, there's challenges there because the toe of the batter of fill, that's been part of the issue. Every time I go and dig a hole up there, I find old landfill, which is not shown on any map. So all my assumptions about where I can and can't go, as we're proving all those, we're finding new issues pretty much every day.
We're still progressing to get this.
Yes, we are.
Quickly as
So
possible.
it'll be,
Okay.
sorry, through Mr. Mayor, the plan is, and I'll bring this back to you on the 13th of August. Again, I need time to complete the hydrological investigation we're doing. Another thing is that we brought in a very, very competent hydrological engineer who's helping us as the project manager / sort out the water issues in consultation with DETSI. So we've got answers to a lot of our questions, and we know where we're going. I'll call it cell 3 light because it's not a full cell as per the original design. It's a cell I can fit into a space that I don't exacerbate the current problems I've got, and that will give us a couple of years worth of fill capacity on top of the current capacity, and that will give us time then to go and actually solve the water issues. There's about 60,000 megalitres of water combined sitting on the Bowen landfill site that I have to find a way to manage that most likely can't be taken off site. It has to be cleaned up before I can actually go and use the hole that the water's sitting in. And that's part of the problem. There's old borrow pits, there's old ponds, there's old sedimentation ponds, there's old weed-shaped management areas, but the quantum is in the order of 60,000 megs of water. And the interrelationship between the aquifers and how water moves on that site is very, very complicated. So again, I don't want to go and spend money, and I need, Mr. Hammond and myself realised we need to come back to council and say, we own this plan and the advice we're giving you, we're confident, and this is the direction we're going in. So yes, we have a plan for cell 3 light. Yes, you have more capacity than what we thought, and the rest will work through in August. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further questions for the Director?
Great question.
Motion the Council receive the Infrastructure Services Quarterly Report for Quarter 3, 24-25. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Going to our supplementary latest order item, which was item number 12.1, the monthly finance report. Move Councillor Simpson, second Councillor Wright. Director Bradshaw, I'll hand over you to speak us through this one, please. Are you going to take us through it instead?
Yeah.
Yes.
Contrary to what Gary said, I think this is the most exciting report last. So this is our report up until the end of May. The operating surplus stood at 3.2 million as we progress towards end of financial year. Our total operating revenue is sitting at 95%, so not quite at 100% year to date, with factors being our timing of water consumption. Water meter reads are occurring as we speak. Once the consumption data is received, we can then put in our estimated accrual for that water consumption. That's partially offset by some increased general rates from commercial accommodation that we've achieved throughout the year with the new category that was put in for this financial year, as well as we've seen a bit of a reduction in prompt payment discount taken up by our ratepayers. What we invoice our customers is tracking under budget at 87%, partly due to the timing of RMPC claims. So we have just lodged our April claim, and the February to April claim for emergency call-outs is also just being launched. That's been impacted by weather events and the timing of that additional contract being negotiated. What we receive as grants is currently tracking under budget. There's a few areas, potentially some that will end up carrying over to the next financial year around Works for Queensland operational projects. and the associated expenditure assigned with that. Some strategic planning grants and the timing of those, First Buy Forever grants in the library space, and also NRM. So those will all be assessed at end of financial year and recognised as revenue accordingly where appropriate under accounting standards. So on the expenditure side, our total direct spend sitting at 95%. So our labour is on track at 100. What we spend on supplies is currently under budget at 92%. With a lot of that to do with timing of invoices. To give you some context, we normally process about 1,500 to 1,700 invoices a month on average. Month of June, that doubles to normally about 3,000 invoices processed. So we will see that actual figure lift up as we progress into June. And total depreciation is tracking slightly above budget due to processing all of the historical WIP, capitalising what's in there, as well as recognising contributed assets as they've come online. So our total community wealth at the end of the period stood at 1.4 billion, which is where it stood for the rest of the year. What we are owed has decreased from the previous month down to 22.6 million from 24 million, and what we owe our suppliers has remained around the $70 million mark, which is those commitments. Cash, so as you're aware, we've got $40 million invested in term deposits maturing in August and in March next year. So all on track to achieve what we were expecting to land at the end of financial year. And our capital budget, so up to the end of May, we had spent 60.8 million, or 67% of the full year budget, excluding commitments. And we've got a further 20.4 million with recognising commitments at the end of the month, which equates to 89% of the full program delivered or committed. Our sustainability ratios for the month are all within the accepted range. As we know, our operating surplus ratio is expected to go outside the targeted range during the month of June as we head towards the budgeted operational deficit position. And as I mentioned before, water meter readings commenced on the 6th of June for consumption for the second half of the year. So all of our plumbers are out there reading meters and estimating what that consumption is going to be in order to raise those invoices in July, August. Happy to take any questions councillors might have on the May reports.
Yes, thanks, Leah. So in relation to RMPC, the June expenditure is taken up as a receivable at the end of June. That's incorporated into the financials that way. It's good. In terms of the going forward a little bit internally, as we know, last year, Mr. Mayor, we had a general fund deficit, as we've just been discussing earlier today, and we funded that from dividends from our water and sewage department, as recommended by the officers of the council. In the event that the wash up at the end of June, and I know we do a financial statements at a high level, and everything's all bundled together, what I would like to see is that upon that happening, we then get broken down into water, sewage, our other business units to determine exactly what the position of those are. And in the event, Mr. Mayor, that the general fund doesn't have as big a surplus, biggest deficit as what we have budgeted for, I would like to see those dividends be returned back to those business units where they came from, so lessen the impact on those balances. So rather than just put those dividends all over into the coffers, and if we don't need them, we put them back in those where they came from to help sustain those business units. What I'd like to see is obviously that happen and a report come back to council probably after the finalisation of the financials. They're internal reports, Mr. Mayor, but as a councillor, we need to understand the internal workings as what we've been promoting this last 12 months on these business units. And we've got to stand firm on that, Mr. Mayor. The other thing on that, Leo, I understand there may be operational specific projects that are in our operational budget that may not be completed by the 30th of June. So I guess those figures would be come out in BR1, where any officers, directors want to carry over a particular project that's an operational, not capital, because that will have an effect on our revised surplus deficit will serve against the R1. So I presume that's going to happen.
Through the chair, if you'd like, I can just respond to that one now. So we maintain a budget risk register. Yes, we've only adopted the budget this morning, but we already have budget risks in our budget risk register for next year, the things that have been identified. Where it's an operational project that you're referring to, generally, the majority of those, there's revenue associated with it, grant-funded revenue, in which case we match the revenue and the expenditure, and we propose that that gets carried forward. For example, we had some works for Queensland funded projects that I think we weren't able to complete for this year, but it's a 2-year funding program. So in Budget Review 1, we will increase our grant revenue by what that is and also increase the expenditure for consultants alongside that, so it'll be a net zero impact. So budget risks will be addressed as well, and we'll come back in Budget Review for Council's deliberation.
One other, Mr Mayor, it's regarding, and Councillor Clay brought this up in the budget deliberations this morning regarding the internal loan for water, and made a very, very valid comment about the tax. What I would like, as part of the wash-up at the end of the year, in conjunction with what I also said, is a briefing on the water fund dividend being offset against the internal water loan, Mr Mayor. And I don't see any reason why we can't do that. So I want a report coming back on that as well, so that the water fund ratepayers aren't double dipping.
Further questions regarding monthly finance report?
We'll take that on notice. We've got notes and we'll run through that.
Everyone okay? Thank you, Lex. Okay, the motion that council receive the monthly financial report, including the unaudited financial statements for the period 31 May 2025. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Okay, everyone, that wraps us up on the reporting side of things. Item number 14, matters of importance. Do any councillors like to raise any matters of importance? Councillor Clifford?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't know what we can do about it, but I would love to see some control over these wretched scooters. I'd like them banned from the footpaths in the main area, you know, wherever, here, Early Beach. They are dangerous beyond belief, and you can't hear them, and they come up behind you and they just think they own everything. Can we make our footpaths scooter free?
So obviously ourselves, along with a lot of the other local governments in Queensland, have been raising this issue for some time. It actually is a live item on last year's LGAQ conference.
Yes.
And the LGAQ is having quite detailed discussions with the Department of Main Roads and Policing as to what the ruling is. We really do need a ruling that comes from the state in relation to us that gives us those options. But as part of the Early Beach Master Plan, as we get down to the detail, we need to actually both design and, if we require, give regulation for that. So particularly those areas where we really want to see none of that activity in the core area, we have some techniques both through design and also through some controls.
Mr. Collins?
In regards to that there, I think, I'm sure I got it right, the government's actually doing a survey at the moment in regards to the e-scooters, so perhaps it's something we could look at in
There has been a change in the legislation recently that prohibits under 13s, under 14s, I think, from
16, but it's every other state except us.
Sorry, continue, Councillor Collins.
just trying to find it here, sorry. Yeah, I'd just like to note, late last year I was asked by the Honours and Awards Secretariat's Office if I could write a letter in support of nomination for the late Doug Winterflood to be considered for an award within the Order of Australia. Wonderful to see that Doug, in this year's King's Birthday Honours, posthumously received a Medal of the Australia Award in OAM. Doug was a long-serving member of the Proserpine Lions Club, where he served with great distinction. With the Lions, he held several committee positions and was also a former District Governor of Lions Club International. Doug also was a former member of the Australian Air Force, I'm sure that many local people will always remember Doug for his wonderful work and service that he did, not for only our region, but the whole of Queensland, actually. So, congratulations, Doug. Rest in peace, old mate. So, yeah.
Anything further, councillors? All being done, I'll declare the meeting finished at 12:46 p.m. Thank you, everyone.